Hi there, Hope and Healing. My name is Les, and I'm the marketing director here at H&H. And today I'm happy to have with me Tracy Pritchard, one of our newest wellness collaborators, so that her future clients can have an opportunity to get to know her a little bit before visiting her for nutrition services. So thanks for being with me today, Tracy.
Hi, Les.
And can you briefly give us a little bit of background about who you are and how you decided to become a nutritionist?
Sure, I'd love to. So this is a second career for me. So prior to being a nutritionist, I was in the Marine Corps. I was a logistics officer. And then after that, I was staying home with my children and decided to go back to graduate school using my post 9/11 GI Bill and pursue a graduate degree in human nutrition. So along with that, I decided to work clinically, and I have a master's degree in nutrition, and I'm a certified nutrition specialist, which is a board certification, and licensed in Maryland to practice clinically. So yeah, nutrition and food and health was my passion. So I decided to take the long route and really dig into evidence-based studies and research and learn about different conditions and how to best help, individuals, because no one person is a protocol. Like everybody has individual needs and people start at different places. So that's how I got there. It's like I wanted some answers and I wanted to separate all the facts from the myths and learn how to continue to do that.
You're very good at separating the facts from the myths. We see a lot of that in the blog posts that Tracy shares on our website, and also on the podcast episodes we've featured Tracy on. She does a really good job of breaking down some of those things that we hear about all the time, but we're not really sure what they mean or how they apply to us as, like you said, an individual. Could you also describe some of the different populations with whom you've worked and how working with those populations has shaped you as a nutritionist?
Sure. So I've worked with a variety of populations, including teenage athletes who just want to improve their performance, to maybe somebody my own age who is experiencing like some gut issues. For a while there, I was getting a lot of referrals from the gastroenterologist and also from some surgeons who had clients or patients who needed to lose weight before some type of a knee or hip surgery. So I would help them. In addition to that, I do practice medical nutrition therapy. That is things that are very specific and therapeutic diets for different conditions. Now, again, no one person is defined by a condition, and many of us have more than one thing going on. But how that's defined me is that, again, nobody is a protocol, and there's no one diet, no one supplement that's going to solve everyone's health problems. And really, people just want to feel better. So it's a matter of where do we start? Sometimes people aren't ready to make big sweeping dietary changes, but they're ready to make small changes. Within the pillars of health, I look at food, movement, sleep, and stress. So people come in and think, oh, we're just going to look at my diet. Well, if people aren't moving their body or they're not sleeping, that all plays into their diet and how they feel and those hunger hormones and mechanisms. So I'm going to approach nutrition changes from a more holistic perspective of all of those things and set goals and realistic goals to get enough sleep, enough movement, to start to renovate the diet without being overly restrictive if we don't need to be.
I know that our existing Hope and Healing clients will really appreciate your holistic perspective because our therapists also take that perspective as well.
Well, and honestly, there are a lot of quote diets out there. There's a lot of fad diets, and some people will do something for a month, but then on the day after the month ends, they go back to all their old habits. And then the changes, well, they felt better until they didn't. We also have to realize that something that worked for their neighbor or their spouse may not actually work, for them. The other thing is probably I'd say the type of client that I really enjoy working with is someone who's just looking to do a little better. A lot of people back in the day, I'm probably dating myself, did a lot of like the Weight Watchers. They counted calories or points or their macros. A lot of people are tired of that. And in no way, I am trained that I can make a plan like that, but that's not what I'm doing at Hope and Healing. I want to help people make those small, sustainable changes, teach people and educate how to make a balanced meal. And at the end of the day, my recommendation might be, for example, eat some protein with the meal. I'll teach them what that is, 4 to 6 ounces. We don't have to weigh it. Now, if the client chooses to, that's up to them. But we will not be measuring and weighing and tracking every single thing, especially for someone who doesn't want to. Now, if somebody wants to, I can meet them where they're at as well. But this is the kinder, gentler approach to just making those small changes.
I love that. And it sounds much more sustainable to me that if we're not constantly really having to count or weigh those types of measurements throughout the day, it could possibly be something that we stick to a little bit better.
Well, exactly. So again, I have to read and meet each client and see what their goals are and hopefully help them reframe those to really realistic, sustainable things, because life happens, right? Like you have a plan and then life gets in the way sometimes. So we want to be able to have something that you can do on your busiest day or when a wrench was thrown in the whole plan and still feel good about it.
Definitely. And so on this same topic, can you tell us a little bit more about your general approach? You've already touched on a few of the main points, but maybe we can elaborate a little bit on your general approach to providing nutrition services.
Sure. Well, my philosophy all along has been that good, better, best. Where are you at and what are you willing to do that might be a little better? Some people may know, a lot of times they know what they need to do and want some accountability or want a little bit more ideas for what those things are. I want people to feel better, right? And a lot of times they know what that might be and they just need that affirmation that that is in fact what they could and should be doing. And we set those short-term goals for that too, to be like, hey, I sure I can try that for 3 days, 5 days a week and come on back and be like, oh, I did notice those changes, right? Because that's the best feedback is when they actually feel better. I'm not sure, I may have gotten off your topic a little bit, but again, this is not a diet. I think DIET is a 4-letter word, but it's changing dietary patterns, dietary habits.
Yes, I think that's really important. When I talk to friends who are making changes in their own nutritional habits, I really try to avoid using the word diet because I would hate to kind of speak that over someone's journey when they're really trying to make these long-lasting changes, because when we think of diets, we think of sort of like a flippant, kind of like a fad, sort of what you were mentioning earlier. And when people are really trying to make those changes, it's not that you're on a diet, you are creating new habits and a lifestyle change, really.
Where we're lifestyling. And I think with the social media just being everywhere, people are getting so many conflicting things of what might work because it's worked for other people. And I think it's important to know where you're getting your information from with influencers. In fact, just the other day, and it can be confusing to me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no wonder people are confused, because there'll be one person saying, eat XYZ, should be the key to everything. Yet then the next person says, never eat those foods, never eat XYZ. So then you're like, well, which one is it? And they're both doing well in their own journey because they have found what works for them. But it needs to be very individualized. Yeah.
Yeah. A gal that I'm friends with has been working on reducing inflammation. She's got arthritis, early onset arthritis stuff going on. And so she's very careful about that consumption online, because she's gotten, like you said, so many mixed messages that can be with very little context and very difficult to decipher and try to apply to our own unique set of circumstances or goals or whatever it is.
Well, absolutely. And also a lot of these, when I think about there's conflicting advice, again, from where's the background, where's the studies, and it has changed over time. Like when there's more nutritional studies, sometimes things that people said to avoid, maybe we don't need to now, or vice versa. But also when we look at some of these really cool things like meal prepping, right? Like you see someone do it and then you're like, wow, that person's amazing. Well, you just saw them, they had their hair and makeup done and their kitchen was clean. Like you're looking at everyone's like perfect day. And if you stack 3, 4, 5 people, there's no way you can keep up with all of them. Right. So
yes,
that's something to think about.
Approach is something I know everyone will definitely agree. Very refreshing. So what is something that you wish everyone knew about seeking nutrition services?
Sure. So one of my former clients had said, he was a young guy, like maybe early to mid 30s. And he told me, he said, when I left my parents' home, they said, always get yourself a good mechanic, get a good accountant. And he said that he wanted to add on and a nutritionist because he thought he was eating a good diet or following a good dietary pattern. And he just wasn't feeling well. And so he came in to see me and we tweaked some things and adjusted when he was eating and when he was going to bed and waking up, just his routine. And he just felt so much better. So there's most people, including myself and my peers, do well with having someone else look at their intake, what they're doing. Or, for example, I also can review labs, conventional labs. We look at those ranges and see how that might affect things, especially if you're not feeling well. Like if you feel great and what you're doing is working, that's fine. But if you're fatigued or you're having trouble sleeping or, everything's achy, a lot of people don't think about what they're consuming or their diet. I had another client tell me that it was years before she even considered seeing a nutritionist for her migraines. And she figured out that it was some of those like aged cheeses and beyond that, like the cheesy stuff that you find in like Doritos and all that. When she removed those, she didn't have the migraines and was actually able to come off her migraine meds. So, but she said, why did it take 17 years for someone to tell me, have you considered that your diet might play a role in this?
Sure. And would you say that you notice fairly often, or what percentage of the time do you notice it really may just be a small change, or maybe not even a complete change, but just a tweak that can make all the difference in the world to the way that someone's feeling?
It really can. And I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here. I think a lot of people, especially women, either don't eat enough or they're not getting enough protein.
Okay. So maybe it could be the type of thing, and we could let you talk about this a little more when I ask our next question about getting started with seeking nutrition services. But I'm wondering, and maybe some people listening could be wondering as well, expectations could certainly vary quite a bit depending on what someone is coming into your office with, or what set of issues they're looking at addressing with you. But when clients come in for nutrition services, should they expect to spend one appointment per week for, say, a month? Should they expect to come bi-weekly for a longer period of time? Or what kind of expectations should they have in terms of working with a nutritionist for the first time, let's say, and be able to see some differences and make some system changes?
Sure. Well, the first appointment's about an hour long or so, and that's an initial intake. That's really where I'm gathering information because no two people are the same. I can have the same paperwork, but then once I meet someone, one person's ready to do more, the other person really wants those small changes. So typically I'll do that, and then I'll have them come back in about 2 weeks for a follow-up. And then it's really up to the client how much more support they need or how many goals they're willing to set per appointment.
So it's something that really is up to the discretion of the client and what they're willing to put forth in terms of commitment.
Absolutely. Like I do not have a program. I mean, there are such things as programs out there, but someone would come in if they said, it's really not feasible for me to come in every 2 weeks. I'd like to just touch base once a month. That's fine too. And probably about 48 hours prior, we'll send a document on, how are you feeling? Some different symptoms. What would you like to discuss this time? So it may be that I work with someone, don't see them for a while, and they're like, hey, I want to come back in and have you review my current supplement regime. Or I was just diagnosed with some type of a new health condition. I'd like to get a nutritional perspective on it. So it really depends. I mean, in past experience, there were clients that I would see that would come consistently every 2 weeks. Some people would say, hey, right now I need every week for accountability. Other people would, come in and out. So it really is individual.
That's great. And so for the individuals who are listening and thinking, maybe I'm ready to give this a try, how would you recommend that they get started and seek out your services?
Sure. Well, they can look on the website. I know from there, and you'll give the number, they can call and make an appointment. I've written several blogs and provided featured recipes, and there's other podcasts that I've done along with Jennifer if they want to, listen to a little bit more of my philosophy or topics that we've talked about. But this is much different than like diet starts Monday, right? Like once you get on my schedule, there's some paperwork and that'll make you aware of some of your habits. There's a 3-day food journal, an intake form. I do a metabolic assessment, which is a questionnaire about some different symptoms. And then if you have current labs, you can absolutely upload them. If you don't, that's something we can discuss down the road. Some people don't want to get labs drawn. Other people have current labs. Either way is fine, but I'm absolutely trained to work with those labs and interpret and, make nutritional recommendations based on them. So just getting on the schedule and just getting started. Some people will come in the past with me with a nutritional intake and say, oh my gosh, like I don't want to get started because I've got XYZ. Well, life is always going to be in the way. So let's figure out if you're going to be going on a trip. I mean, we can still implement these strategies on a trip. You don't want to say, I don't want to start my diet because I'm going to travel. Well, you can eat healthy while you travel, or different while you travel, or just enjoy while you travel. And those are the things that we can discuss and like set up as people go along.
I love that. That's such an important piece of the puzzle is knowing how to pivot.
Yeah, right.
And accommodate for when things that unavoidably, ultimately, and will always get in the way for when that happens. And I really want to emphasize the podcast episodes that Tracy's been featured on. I think you've done 4 or 5 now. And as someone who has listened to all of them, I can say Tracy is just a wealth of information. And it's not always about, eat this, not that. It has, there's so many different departments, I guess, that you cover under the umbrella of nutrition, and from topics ranging. I mean, you've talked about the social pressures of eating in a group or with family members or during the holidays. And you've talked about how to get the family involved in meal prepping. And I think the most recent one we've done is about eating seasonally now that it's springtime and there's some new options that are fresh in town for people to take advantage of. And so there's the more really, the more information that you have to work with and think about throughout the day while you're making your choices really does make a difference. I've enjoyed all of those episodes. And if anyone's interested in checking them out, they can do so on YouTube. Our YouTube channel will be linked here, as well as our iTunes channel, our Spotify channel. You can also check out Tracy's bio on our website, and that's on hopehealingtherapy.com. And you can give us a call. Our phone number here at Hope and Healing is 301-690-8404 extension 0. And that'll get you connected to Tracy and all of her services. So Tracy, I know this is subject to change, but for clients who are interested in coming in for nutrition services, what form of payment are you currently able to take? It's now almost May of 2024, or what different payment options are in place for clients?
Sure. So we are currently taking Blue Cross Blue Shield, and within each plan, it may be a little different. So you should always check with scheduling when you do that, as well as cash pay. So that's always an option.
Okay,
I'm
great.
sure they will update on our forms and at that initial booking. If more are added, we will make sure that our clients know that.
Or anything you'd like to close on, any final thoughts?
Gosh, I mean, I probably have 100 different thoughts, but I will say that, just jump in. Like the nutrition world and food companies and advertising, it's everywhere. And they've really tried to complicate things that we can work to simplify. I promise that anyone that comes to see me, unless they want to be a foodie and make complicated recipes and meal planning, I'm going to keep it simple because I have a full life and 3 teenagers and a spouse, and I'm on the go. So it's really more about just those sustainable behavior changes that we can do.
That's great. And I really appreciate you sharing with us today and for all of the information you provided.
Thanks for having me.